It's really important to have these notebooks because you just sit and dream with them. And eventually, when you really like what it is that you're seeing, that's when you go out and make small steps. So all of these, I'll show you. All of these have a different dream version of what I'm going to be doing. Some of them are of the backyard. Some of them between my monthly sheets. I have lined paper that I make notes on and that are just like little jots. And then on my main cardstock is where I make my lists. So this, Things We Eat, is a completely new part of my system. And I thought of it, I think, the first week of August. So what I did was in August, things we like to eat: peaches, Swiss chard, onions, green beans, summer squash, tomatoes, cucumbers, bell peppers, and beets. And I'm just making these lists after going to the farmer's market because those are the things that are seasonal right now. These are not lists that I'm making when I go to the grocery store. I'm only doing it at the farmer's market because the farmer's market will show me what it's possible to be growing in this month. So let's see. And then below that, so here is Things We Eat. And then here is Plant. So this month I need to plant in greenhouses or in boxes that I'm capable of turning into cold frames. I need to plant kale, Swiss chard, carrots, and peas. Because, and then, so if I want to eat those things in August, when would I have to plant them? Favorite garden seed catalog is Territorial Gardens. They come up every time. They're super good. They last forever. I love Territorial Gardens. I get all my vegetable seeds from them. I like to get a lot of my unusual fruit trees from Rain Tree. You can also get them at Coldstream Creek in Michigan, and they're a lot cheaper, but they don't have as much variety. The other one is Mussers, which is M-U-S-S-E-R, Mussers. And they're even cheaper than Coldstream Creek, but I don't think that their quality of their trees is as good as Coldstream Creek. So for wild crafting type stuff, those are two really good online stores to go to. This one has more variety in your wild crafting stuff, so you'll get multiple different varieties of elderberries, multiple different varieties of Saskatoons, figs, bamboo, all sorts of interesting things from Rain Tree. And they have a really good policy for if things don't make it. Really good sized trees and shrubs. For unusual heirloom heritage type things, try to see if I can get better light. For unusual heritage type seeds, for the garden, vegetables and stuff, is Seed Savers. They're very inexpensive. Everything germinates. They don't have as much variety as Territorial, but they're really, really good. And I can get garlic from them, which it's illegal to ship garlic to Idaho, but their standards are high enough that I can get garlic from them. Fantastic, fantastic source. If you are into old worldy type stuff and you have some money to spend, Lehman's catalog is fantastic. It sells our wood burning stove. We didn't get it from them, but our wood burning stove is available there. They have butter churns. They have everything you can imagine that would be an Amish catalog thing. They're pricey, but if you want to know that something's authentic and you don't have to go research it and figure out if it's the same thing as what they have at Walmart, this is a good place to get it. I prefer to get my stuff at Walmart and just kind of tweak them a little bit to make them work. But this is really good. Baker Creek Heirloom Seeds is very, very large, comprehensive, but they're also run privately by this really nice homeschooled boy. I think he's about my age. He might be a little bit younger, but he is passionate about seeds. And this is a phenomenal company. I've never actually ordered from them. I'm so in love with Territorial that I've never ordered anything from Baker's Creek. But this is their catalog. I mean, you can see it's huge and it's beautiful. And I would like to order from them someday. I don't know if I will, just because I love Seed Savers and I love Territorial. But this one's really good if you're really big into heirlooms and flavor and exotic. Baker's Creek is a good place. Seeds from Horizon Herbs, and they're just fantastic. And I have, I don't know how many, 75 maybe herb seeds. And what I buy is I buy herbs that will be perennial to my area or self-seeding annuals, and that way I don't have to replenish the seeds. I want them to come back on their own. And the greenhouse, I have a hotbed built inside my greenhouse, and once it starts to heat up and then has cooled down a little bit, I'm planning on planting some of these in the greenhouse. Okay. I got all my pieces of paper put back in, and so I wanted to go through, and for those of you who are not interested in gardening, I'm sorry. Don't watch this video if you don't, if you're not into herbal stuff. So, first off, I have fava beans. Is it fava? Yeah. And what I did with the fava beans is I took them and planted them at the base of each of my fruit trees. And before the fruit tree will be distressed, whether from a lack of fertilizer or a lack of water, the fava bean will be distressed. And I do the same thing with Jerusalem artichokes. And that way they're indicator plants. If they start to look wilty, it means, because the trees have a better root system than the fava beans and the Jerusalem artichokes, they will last longer, but it's just an indication. So I love fava beans. I don't sow them until about the same time that I plant my other beans, because they don't do real well with the stress of frost. Clover, if I have a bad field, I will plant clover, because as long as it has some water, it will increase your biomass. It will protect your grass as it comes up. It'll protect your alfalfa as it comes up. It'll protect everything. So I love clover. And there's so many things in here that I'm not telling you about, because you should just go look in the catalog yourself. Okay, Gobo burdock is a trustworthy blood cleanser for treatments of many ills, including staph. It needs to be combined with dandelion. And it is the same thing. It has those little burrs, cocklebur. Cocklebur, same thing as burdock. So, arnica. Arnica is for bruises or any kind of damage to your skin that's not an actual cut. Arnica is hard to get to germinate. This year I actually have some that germinated. And if you're using a window like I do, because the sun is so far that way on the horizon rather than up in the sky, the sun comes in very well through that window, whereas by the time we get into March, the sun is up high and it no longer reflects into my kitchen well. So early winter, sorry, is it early winter if it's January, or late winter? Early in the year, the sun coming in this window is perfect for seed. This is my seed starting setup. We have a south-facing wall window, and I have everything in a tray so that I water everything from the bottom. I pour the water in here, and it sucks it up in next to the roots. If you water from the top, you'll wash little tiny seeds away. And so then I back it. Well, first I lock the door. I don't want kids or hubby or me to come through and forget that I've got plants here. So at this point, I lock this door. We have to use the other doors. And then I take a white sheet, as white as I can get, and I've used aluminum foil for this before, but the white sheet seems to work better. And this way, when light comes in off the window, it reflects off of the white sheet and back onto the back of the plants. It works really well. And the seeds that we started here in the window did as well as the ones under our specialized orchid green light. And then on this one, my shelf wasn't quite tall enough, so I took a drying rack and layered them on the drying rack on top of the shelf, and as long as they're not completely overcasting each other, they'll work just fine. I just alternate and move the trays between shelves so that everything gets the same amount of sunlight. And then I'll probably... So, the smallest seeds have a tendency to be my herb seeds, and they take a really long time, sometimes up to 3 months to finish germinating. And they stay really teeny. So I don't like to use the really tiny planting containers. I go for ones that are a little bigger, or even yogurt containers. I really like yogurt containers because then I don't have to transplant them. They can stay in their container for as long as they need to. But for right now, that's what I brought up with these medium-sized ones. Okay, inside my little tray, I don't know how well you can see that. That's my tray that lifts out of my seed toolbox. I keep my lids. We don't buy dairy very often, but when we do, I keep these. And wood rots after a bit, and it's hard to write on them, even with like magic marker. And so what I do is I take my kitchen shears, you know, the ones that can cut meat, and I cut out like that. And that is now my label that I stick into my dirt. And then I keep a permanent marker. And I also have my stickers that I use for the tops of my little seed trays, or little seed storage containers. And then tape to hold those down if I don't want to hold down. And then just a regular pen. So these gloves are called Wonder Grip Nearly Naked. And what they are is they just have rubber, I guess it's rubber, over the top of like spandex fabric, and so it's almost like it's your naked hands. Whereas if you use leather or something like that, there's a lot in between your fingers, and it's hard to manage it. Now these don't protect you very well from thorns because of the back, or from yellow jackets. I have been stung through the back of these gloves. I don't know if they could have stung me through the rubber, but they did sting me through the back of my glove. Yeah, last year was just a really bad year for yellow jackets for me. So the reason I wear these when I'm doing the potting soil is because, first off, black gold is the one I like. I don't know if you can see that. Black gold, all-purpose potting soil, and it has some fertilizer in it anyway, and it's just a really good texture. And when I use it, I don't want those little stickers because it does have, I believe, some wood or core or some kind of little, it has something in it that's like wood slivers. As you can see, I have just made a really big mess out of my whole kitchen. Many of the herbs have reached a point where they needed to be transplanted because, not necessarily because they were too big for their container, but because they needed new dirt. When you have indoor plants, sometimes the water and the dirt become stagnant and compacted, and it's good to refresh them with some new dirt. Also, I refertilize them. I use the Osmocote pink lid to fertilize, and I keep them out of the sunlight for a couple days afterwards just so they can recover before they need to start producing food for the leaves again and absorbing water. I want to just give them a break. So some of them are really, really slow to grow. And so it took that long for them to come up. And I have others that still haven't come up. Everybody's looking pretty good. And hey guys, the dirt that we use is black gold. We get it from Fred Meyer. It's $5 a bag, and it's been the best dirt that I've ever used. So black gold, just regular all-purpose potting soil. And I use a lot of this.
For planting stuff.
Yeah, you want to put the lug in, please? So what Kai is doing is do you want to hold it up, honey, so they can see it? Okay. No, just stay where you are. Go back where you are. I've got it on you. Just hold it up and let them see. Okay, so she's cutting the centers out of yogurt lids.
And we send lots of kinds of lids, but not metal, only plastic. Mom, am I going to put the dirt in?
I don't know. The problem with the black gold is that it has tiny little
fibers, I think wood fibers, and they get in your hands and they hurt. They're teeny tiny little slivers. So I will probably be putting the dirt in and have the girls help with putting bigger seeds in, but we'll just see. So last year I used cardboard in my greenhouse and in my garden. The deeper the box, the better it was. The smaller, deeper boxes were the ones that did the best, because when I did water them, it held the water in, but it watered them deeply. It worked really, really good. The one thing I didn't like was if I had really delicate seedlings in them, watering it was difficult as far as being able to get the water into the dirt without killing the seedlings. So this year, I've done the self-watering containers before, and I didn't like them because it was hard to have a big enough container to have it make a difference to the plants. I used 2-gallon containers, 2-gallon buckets, and did the PVC and the filter and the and everything at the bottom. And they worked really good for things like herbs, but for big tomatoes and stuff like that, they didn't work well. There just wasn't enough space in the bucket. And so I'm going to try my box method, but this year I'm going to steal something from my self-watering container method, and I'm going to put some PVC in to help water it so that the water gets all up and down, but that I'm not pouring the water directly onto the soil where it'll wash small plants away.
What should I do right now?
Look pretty. Okay, I did the greenhouse. We've tried hoop houses before, and the wind and the snow has killed them. So I've seen one that was a lean-to that worked really well, because they had this wood lathe on top that would hold the plastic together. And so this is the door, and I have it set so that the top is separate from the bottom, so that if I want to keep chickens and children out, I can open the top and let it breathe. So instead of having just one door, because I don't have any other venting yet. Sorry, I built it for short people. This is the inside, so it's a raised bed, and I pushed it up against this wall because what I'm going to do is take netting, like chicken wire, and run it all the way up to the ceiling and down to the cross beam, so that I can train peas onto it, peas and beans, so that while it's early season yet, I have something planted. The lumber was the most expensive part, and some of it was stuff we already had, but some of it wasn't, so that was kind of expensive. And then the sides, the inside has chicken wire. Can you see it? It has chicken wire to hold the straw in, so it's layered. It's layered with straw, and then pathway compost from the chickens, having dug it up for 2 years now. So straw, chicken compost, rabbit manure, straw, chicken compost, straw, rabbit manure. And then here on the top I put wood ashes, and then I'm waiting for it to kind of sink down a little bit. And once it's sunk down, then this top layer, this space of 12 inches, probably I'll only put 8 inches because it's really expensive, is going to be planting medium that is weed free. And what should happen is that the inside of the grow bed should heat up, so that between now and May, I've got internal heat keeping the greenhouse warm. And so I won't be starting tomatoes. I'll be starting things like kale and that kind of thing, because I don't want to have to fight the cold nights, but the kale won't mind the cold nights as much as something like tomatoes. So after I put all that down, I watered it with a sprinkler, so that's why there's water in here, is because I had the sprinkler going for a little bit. And the planting medium is $89 for a cubic yard, so it's incredibly expensive. And the way that they used to do hotbeds was they would take the compost that was from an old bed and use it as the planting medium on the next bed. So once I have this one started, I still have to build another one of these somewhere else so that I have enough compost in February next year to put on top here, because I don't want to have to put growing medium on more than once. So.
You mentioned cost. Any idea roughly how much the lumber?
The lumber for the grow bed was $55, and that's because of the 2x12 by 10s.
And that's using pallets on 2 walls.
And that's pallets on 2 walls because I wanted it to be sturdier, and I already had it. And then these brackets. This is the only thing I use for any of my building is these brackets, because I'm a girl and I can't really get my shoulder behind a drill very well, and I don't want the wood to get split. And so what I use is these brackets to hold everything. I mean, you can look at the greenhouse, and that's what I've used. And it's not perfect, but for girl construction, it works really well. And then the poultry netting, it was 50 feet long, and it was $13 for the chicken netting, and I can use that again for the back wall when I'm creating a trellis up the top. Not all the way up the top, but it should also help a little bit in the summer with shading it, because it gets really, really hot in our backyard and really, really, really sunny, because that's a white wall behind us on the house itself. And so with having peas or tomatoes or something climbing the top once it gets to be summer, that should help cut down, because we get plenty of sunlight in this way from the walls. There will still be plenty. Because I've grown in a greenhouse that was much more opaque than this is, because we use those IBC totes as greenhouses too, and they don't get nearly as much sun as what this will get. So we're kind of excited, and hopefully this starts breaking down soon. I don't know if maybe I need to put some compost tea on it to kind of speed it up, but it's only been 36 hours, so we'll see.
Okay, I'll see if I can talk over Jumper. She's the baritone in the background. I wanted to show you what is coming up. Not sure, can you see it? Anyway, I've got peas coming up right now. And I already have radishes. And this is the beginning of March. And I have peas coming up. I wish it was a little bit faster, but this is new. And you can see they've sunk. So there's that and there's that. So the boxes have sunk. And I have added more barnyard litter. I've added another 2 feet since the first video. And it is still quite... Well, you can see the steam. Can you see the steam? So, the stuff underneath is pulling away. You can see it's compressing away from the screen where before it was pressing into the screen. And I have some wheat germinating, which is going to be interesting. I don't know how that'll turn out. There's more. But yeah, it's steaming, and until I added this last batch, the ammonia had kind of gone away, but we've got a little ammonia again. And remember, the only thing I'm really trying to do is keep... Can you see the steam? That's not from the greenhouse. That's from the hotbed. It's warm in here. It's quite warm. Probably about 80 degrees. So for germination, that's good. And I will probably leave the upper half of the door open today so that it can breathe, because it's supposed to get up into the high 40s today. And anyway, it doesn't really matter if the middle is still hot. As long as there's enough heat to keep it from freezing at night, that's enough heat. So I will continue to keep putting barnyard litter on the top, and I'm going to keep adding boxes around the outside. You can see I did them around the outside so they're not next to that central heat. We had temperatures down in the 20s, so it froze pretty hard, and the snow was still on the ground until about 10 or 11 today. Yesterday I repotted some of my tomatoes, and I brought them out here because I wanted to see if it stayed warm enough, because the hotbed no longer feels hot. There's no more steam. But I just wanted to know. So these tomato plants were in the house yesterday, but they're in here now. And I planted garlic in boxes so that once it's safe to plant them outside, I can just pick the boxes up and go make space in the mulch and just plant them out there. Because right now I still have the chickens in the back, and I'm trying to get the fencing set up so I can put them in the pasture, but it's just not quite ready yet, and they would dig up my garlic if I gave them the opportunity. So there's my peas. I don't know if you can see them. Hopefully you can see them. The radishes do not like the greenhouse, but the Swiss chard and the carrots and the peas do. So that's that so far. And again, the heat inside the grow bed is now kind of benign. It's just kind of simmering a little bit. So, and this is what I did on the side, because I have a double door that I made because I just had these frames given to us for firewood, and I used them to make the doors, but I don't have any venting yet. So that's how I just took a little ring and a rubber band that goes over the latch. It's just a rubber band to hold it open. And you can see that the grass is coming up really well in here. So anyway, kind of exciting. It's probably about 35 degrees outside right now, and it's about 90 in here. So I'm going to leave that open. Even though I have tomatoes in here, I need to kind of vent it out a little bit. Okay, I wanted to give you an update on the greenhouse, and it's really, really windy today, and so far the plastic has held just fine. I kind of want to put some more lathe or 1x2s along the outside in a strip, because it's the stripping, it's the furring strips that hold the plastic on so they're not jerking against something smaller and tearing. So I'll probably do that once this wind is over, but I wanted to show you how everything is doing. I can't turn the camera back towards the greenhouse, so I have to kind of guess what you're looking at now. Let's see. So the garlic is looking good, and I've got Swiss chard and carrots, and none of the radishes made it. The radishes do not like the greenhouse, but I have lots and lots of peas up. And again, we're still having freezing temperatures at night. And the other thing is that I thought that was interesting is that I've got mushrooms in here. Mushrooms growing in the straw. And Territorial Gardens actually has some spawn that we're looking at, some mushroom spawn, and I don't remember if it's oyster mushrooms or white button or something. They're kind of a generic mushroom, but I have so much straw on my property, and they say you just take the spawn and mix it with clean straw and put it like around the base of your raspberry bushes or something, somewhere that they'll be safe and that it'll spread from there. So I thought we might try that. And I got mushrooms. Can you see the mushrooms? I got mushrooms in here all over the place. There for a while it smelled like dog poop, and that was when the mushrooms were spawning and when they first started to pop up. And there's the sunshine. But obviously you can't eat these mushrooms, but it just got me thinking that if I could do it in my hotbed, I bet I could do it with some spawn. So anyway, there's our peas. They're getting big, and they're perfectly happy, and the heat from the hotbed has died down considerably, and so now it's just a greenhouse, and but the plants seem really happy, so there we go. Okay, so here is an update for the greenhouse. Everything is doing really well. The garlic is up really high, and I know you plant garlic in the fall, but I had all that garlic in my house that was sprouting, and I didn't need it all, so I decided to plant it out in the greenhouse. As you can see, the peas are doing really well. We have some Swiss chard and some carrots coming up in these boxes, as you can see. I'm going to come out and I'm going to put some Swiss chard in with the garlic that I don't have anything planted in so that I'm not wasting space. And then I put some strawberries in here. I wanted to see how they would do just directly in the straw. And then some of them I did in boxes so that I can move them later and go dig a hole and just put the box in. The other thing I wanted to show you is this. My cat had been coming in. Okay, so if you have a garden, you know that cats like to go to the bathroom in your garden. And as far as I understand, cats are actually more toxic than any, a lot of the parasites that pigs can get, they actually get them from cats. So you don't really want cats pooping in your garden. And my cats thought it was fun because I go in there, they want to go in there, and they want to go in there, and they decide that's what they want to do with it, is they want to poop in it. So I just took some bird netting, because if I had used metal here, it would have torn holes in my plastic. And I just used a little staple gun. I can't see this because it's really bright, so hopefully you can see that. I used a staple gun along the top and one side, and then I just loop it like that. And right there. And there we go. My cats cannot get in, and I can still... Oh, and by the way, we had 6 inches of snow between the last 2 days. It's been great. So hopefully I can get in here to show you my venting system. Okay, I put it at the bottom because I wanted cool air to come in. If I put it at the top, I would have had warm air coming in. So at the bottom, cool air is coming in, and hopefully will help cool the greenhouse. And again, bird netting to keep chickens and cats out. And all I did was I used cardboard because I wanted to make sure that I could still keep it from being drafty. And this, anyway, I love these swivel things. I use them on everything. I'm such a retard. Anyway, that's what I did. Again, it's not rocket science. And the roof held with all that there was on that. So apparently my boards are spaced closely enough together, and the plastic is holding it just fine. Another interesting tidbit. This is a loop where I have some water on the inside that condensed, and so this is internal. And what ended up happening was I had a whole bunch of little gnats and bugs in there from the manure. So they were manure flies when I did the hotbed the first time. Well, once this started to congeal in here, I don't know if you can see that. Those are all flies. All the flies went to the water to get a drink and fell in and died. And so I actually don't have any bugs in my greenhouse anymore because I was tempted to poke a pinhole here and let it drain out, but then I thought, why would I do that? I have a bug catchment system in my greenhouse. So I left it there, and everything is doing really well. We have had 40-mile-an-hour winds, and none of the plastic has been stressed, and we've had heavy snows, and it hasn't collapsed. So I'm really happy with it so far. Okay, so if any of you wondered why in the world I was planting everything in boxes, it's because I wanted to be able to move them. The cardboard will degrade, so I can just take these boxes and I can go dig a hole and just put the box in, and I won't have disturbed any of the roots. None of the roots will have been disturbed. I could put them in a cold frame, but either way, I can move them. So I have taken them off the top of the grow bed, hotbed, and it's cooler down on the floor. They won't get as much sunshine, but they're not high sunshine needing plants anyway. And here in a little bit, once I have my cold frame ready, I can just go put them out in the cold frame in the boxes. And I can still water them where they are, and the cardboard retains water much better than a little plastic grow container will. So this is my Oregon Spring and my Thessalonica tomatoes. I am going to plant them in the hotbed, and then I'm going to put jars around them so they won't freeze. And then on top of that, at night, I'm going to put on a blanket. And I'm going to see if they'll make it because it's so stinking hot out here. It must be 95 degrees in here. And I made another vent right there, and it still is not moving the air like I want it to. So I might actually go get a little fan and put it in here. If it was anywhere else on the property, it probably wouldn't be so bad, but in our backyard, it gets so hot. Anyway, so isn't that awesome? They're biodegradable planting trays, except I don't really like this thin ones because they don't hold the dirt in well enough, and it makes it hard to water them. So I much, much, much prefer the deeper boxes. And I'm only having to water them about every 3 days. Even with the heat in here, they're holding the water really well. I brought in my starts from inside the kitchen, and I'm going to go get some wire loops that I use for my cold frame tunnels. And I'm going to put the wire loops over them, and then I'm going to drape them with the blanket tonight, and they should be just fine, even though I haven't hardened them off at all. It is so stinking hot out here. I think I'm going to die. Hopefully they don't die. I guess that's the important part. Don't die, little plants. But I mean, even the peas look just fine. They don't look like they're stressed by the heat. And it is like 20 degrees colder down here at the base. So that's good. That's working. And I think that's it for now. So anybody who has ever raised chicks know that after a little while they start to stink. So I had a really good idea. I'm going to bring the chicks out. Because they've been under the wood burning stove, they're accustomed to heat fluctuations rather than constant temperature that you get from a heat lamp. So I'm going to bring them out here in my greenhouse. It won't be as hot at the bottom as it is at the top, but there will be pockets that are warmer than others, like in the direct sunshine. So they've got their food and their water out here. The cats can't get in because I have the netting. And I think at night I am going to bring out a heat lamp for them so that I don't have to have them in the kitchen. And the heat lamp will not only keep the chicks warm, it will keep the plants from freezing. So I can probably at that point have my tomato plants out here. So I thought that was a great way to kind of dual purpose things. And they can sit out here and eat the grass. Don't they look happy? So excited. I'm just going to have to be really careful when I walk around in here because they kind of blend into everything. I thought about putting them up here in this bed, and I don't think I need to, though. There's no way for them to get out. There's no way for anything to get in. And they should be really happy out here because I don't want them in the house anymore. It's why I have my hens adopt chicks, is because I don't like to raise chicks. So it is probably about 50 in here right now. I think I'm going to lower the heat lamp down just a tiny bit. It was quite cold last night, and we didn't lose any babies. And of course, they've already got their water all gunky. Need to change that as soon as I'm not holding a camera. So I barred it off so they couldn't get to the plants that are succulent. Like the tomatoes, probably don't really care so much. Everything else back here, I don't want to get eaten by chicks. So I just blocked things off so they can't get back there. And I have little pieces of bread in here for them to eat. And they actually did a pretty good job cleaning it up. So there is our chick greenhouse. I don't know that I would do this if they were teeny tiny chicks. But like I said, they'd been in our house for a couple weeks. And in our house, it's cool in the morning because we have the wood burning stove that kind of slows down and we haven't got up to recharge it. So they're used to temperatures that fluctuate. So if they'd been brand new babies, I probably wouldn't have put them out here quite yet. But they're not, and they're starting to feather out just a tiny bit. So the temperature outside is probably just hovering right around 30 degrees. So the only thing they have between them and 30 degrees is, and you see they're not huddling under the light. They're kind of moving back and forth. And when I got in here, they weren't all under the light. They were just kind of moving around. And you can see the snow. Okay, so I have moved all my cool weather plants here underneath the swing set. My kids don't play in this area. So I dug away all the mulch so that they're in contact with bare soil. I dumped 3 buckets of really strong rabbit manure tea on the dirt, put the boxes in, pushed the mulch up back around them. I have a frost cloth on the back ready to be put on at any minute. And this is not like my kids can still swing. This won't be in their way. And I think it'll be a fun place to harvest strawberries and peas from anyway. So I'm going to put up a little gate right here too, so that if they fall off the swing, they're not falling in here. And I've done this in 3 other places with perennials, and we'll see how it goes, because the regular part of the garden is just too hot, and it's starting to be time to plant my regular annuals, and so the perennials need to go where they're going to go permanently, and it is just too warm over there. So I love these cardboard boxes because I can move my garden as the needs of my plants become evident without having to transplant them and have transplant shock and stuff like that. It allows me to move them and still biodegrade and keep the moisture in, and we'll see how this works. Did you put the onions in yet? Are you sure? Can you show them to me? No, in here. Did you? I didn't see you put an onion in, honey. You put the dirt in. Now I want to see you put the onion in.
But wait a minute.
I think you forgot.
I didn't do it yet.
Okay, so put the onions in, and then we'll know you didn't forget. Onion here and onion there.
Haven't done.
And which side goes up, honey? I didn't see any onions in them. You put dirt in them, but you didn't put onions in yet. Which side goes up? What do we call that part? The pointy side goes up?
Yeah.
Yep, the pointy side goes up. Okay, put one in here now. Whatever. But if it's a tree service, I run, because with tree services, generally that means the person doesn't care about wood. They just care about the aesthetics of not having the tree there anymore. And so I ran over, and they were taking down a pine tree, and I asked them, and so they're going to load the wood for me. They already brought me some chips, and they're doing it for free because I'm just next door, and they'd have to drive 20 minutes into the closest dump, because our local dump is only open on weekends. So I wanted to show you what it looks like when I'm applying mulch. Anywhere that the ducks have made the ground really, really flat, because they paddle on it and it just flattens everything, and it makes it really nasty and hard. Makes it so water doesn't hold in very well. And you can see the mess that the kids have made, which is kind of frustrating. But all this mulch will cover that. I've gone and picked up all the garbage that's in big enough pieces, and I need to pull up some hoses. But this is what I'm talking about when I say that the ducks make things flat. If you can see that, it just looks hard packed. And ducks poop kind of like seals the top of the soil, and it's really nasty and really dirty. So about every 3 to 6 months, I come in and put about half a ton of mulch on, and that costs me about $40. It just kind of depends on the weather and that kind of thing, but I'd say about half a ton every 6 months. And you can see all the apples. The ducks are just loving them. So you start at the farthest place away from where you're coming in. So I started here, and this is where I put the first bale down, because you don't want to have to be dodging it. And what I do all the time, and I don't know why I do it, it's so stupid, I get all excited about covering up the places that are the ugliest, and I forget that they're right in my path. And mulch is fine to go on once it's had a chance to settle, but in the beginning it's very fluffy and very hard to get a wheelbarrow over. And the other thing is, once I place them, I pop them immediately, because otherwise I get distracted and pull them to other places thinking they need them more. If I don't just open them right now, I have a tendency to not actually apply the mulch and to move them to somewhere else. So this is what it looks like after I have come in and kicked it around a little bit. This didn't need to be done. It's still soft and airy and has plenty on it. So what I did was I took my grain, and anywhere that I had kicked it up, I poured grain on top of these bales that I've kind of kicked around a little bit. And I'll show this to you tomorrow. And what it'll look like is this. They'll do all that in a very short amount of time, and it'll look really pretty. And it'll cover up a lot of the chicken feathers and garbage out here that the girls have left that's biodegradable like the paper. So it'll look a lot better. Okay, I'm going to try and show you what I got finished. Okay, so I have moved all my cool weather plants here underneath the swing set. My kids don't play in this area. So I dug away all the mulch so that they're in contact with bare soil. I dumped 3 buckets of really, really strong rabbit manure tea on the dirt, put the boxes in, pushed the mulch up back around them. I have a frost cloth on the back ready to be put on at any minute. And this is not like my kids can still swing. This won't be in their way. And I think it'll be a fun place to harvest strawberries and peas from anyway. These are duck eggs. They are my favorite kind of egg. The thing about ducks is that they don't lay them in a nest. They kind of just lay them out everywhere. But they're hard as rocks. They're really, really hard to get the shell to crack. And they are just wonderful. They are my favorite egg. And we're really lucky because the younger ducks just barely started laying just as we're going into winter. Just as the chickens are stopping laying. I just went out and thinned my winter beds. So I pulled out a whole bunch of radishes. These were the ones that had no damage to them. Some of the others had some worms in them and stuff, but these are perfect. These were purple plum, I believe. You can see how big they are. And then I had some mullein that I had planted in with those, so I'm going to dry that. And then I had a squash that I pulled out. Kind of fun.